everyone, and welcome to another episode of Embrace It, Dignify It, Inspire It. Today we are doing we have reached to an episode 5, and I welcome you all. This is a this is an initiative from Dynamo, and we are doing a podcast to promote equality, diversity, and inclusion in the Northeast region. So today obviously we've spoken about a lot of things. So today we thought, why not, we choose something that is. Yes, it is talked about, but it's not something that we know, or most of the people like to speak about on the podcast. So across sectors, what is happening right now is competition is forcing team to take on a more strategic and creative role, as we all know, to improve their performance. So many leaders are discovering their team's ability to innovate and think outside the box. Employers are realizing that it does not only require a wide variety of skills, but also diversity of thoughts and diversity of perspective. And here is why neurodiversity becomes important today. This is why I've just kept it till here. The topic of today's episode is neurodiversity. So obviously we have spoken about this, we've heard about this, but to go further into detail and know more about this sector today, and to further talk about the matter and briefly address the many misconceptions people have around the neurodiversity term, we have on our show today the CEO of Different, Rachel Murphy, a confident, dynamic, and lively CDO, and now a CEO, delivering services and businesses change tech for good across public and private sectors. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Rachel Murphy on the show. Hello, Rachel. How are you?
Good morning, Fareeha. I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm all right. Thank you so much for coming onto the show. Obviously, as you're aware, today the topic and the episode is neurodiversity. Before we go further into detail, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and Different?
Yeah, of course. So my background, I spent 20 years working as an interim manager. So I worked across public and private sector, and I've done a lot of kind of turnaround activity in way of the work that I've done. So I'd worked for Department of Education. So I was the CIO for Department of Education, and then I moved latterly into health. And I led a piece of work for the health regulator for a couple of years, and we started digitizing some of their services. And then I led the patient-facing transformation for the NHS for a couple of years, and that's services like the NHS app and the NHS apps library. So giving citizens the ability to actually book an appointment, get a repeat prescription, and access their medical record. And then 3.5 years ago, I decided to build the company that I couldn't find when I worked in healthcare. And I built Different. So Different is an organization that works across healthcare and central government. We do a little bit with private sector, but that tends to work in the healthcare space. And the work that we do, we do the user research and the service design all the way through to running live services. But it tends to be health. That's where our real domain expertise is. That's where our real love of delivering outcomes sits, not just personally, but right across the business. So for me, I'm incredibly proud of the business. We've built some incredible services over the last 3.5 years. We've done a big piece of work in the North East for NHS BSA around the jobs platform. We've done a lot of work on overseas health. And we were responsible for building the home testing platform for COVID-19 last year for NHSX. We kind of live up to our name, really. We are very different. And I think the kind of culture of the people that work at Different, there's about 70 of us, combination of permanent and contract, but we're a pretty different bunch, to be honest.
Okay, I think, thank you so much. I think that was such a good introduction, and I'm hugely inspired by Different. I'm hugely inspired by you, and I'm hugely inspired by the work that Different has done for the COVID as well during the very difficult and challenging times. So, obviously, today on our show, we will be talking about a different way of thinking and a different way of living life. That's neurodiversity. And we'll be talking about what neurodiversity is and what benefits an organization can gain by recruiting more neurodiverse employees. And when we were thinking about this topic, I could not think about anybody else other than you, Rachel, because of the work you've done and because of what Different is doing and the vision Different carries with it. So obviously, to start with, the term neurodiversity is something much deeper and much more beautiful than referring to people with the traits such as ADHD, autism, dyslexia, or any mental health problems. So, what are your thoughts about this?
So I think that's a great question. And my thoughts are that we are all individuals. And no, not one of us could be categorized as being, normal or kind of run of the mill. Each one of us is an individual. And the reality there is we think differently. We engage with people differently. We deliver work differently. And we need to understand that, and we need to accept it, but we also, we need to embrace it, because some of those traits are particularly relevant and powerful for certain roles. And I think starting to tie some of that together and not be afraid of that is incredibly important. And I, as a workforce, we have a very open culture at Different. So we've been talking about neurodiversity for the last 3 years since the company was first set up. And I think that's, because we encourage people to bring their whole self to work. In way of a culture and an organization, my team are not afraid to talk about anything. And there's good and bad in that, to be honest. But you get authentic, you get the real people, and that for me is the most important thing. We're all at work for far too many hours, so quite frankly, you've got to enjoy yourself while you're there.
Yes, that's it. And that's going to lead me with my next question, that obviously you've said we need to be authentic and you've built that culture in your workplace. But why is it that the percentage is still less in employment sector of people who identify themselves as neurodiverse?
I think that's a combination of a couple of factors. I think it's, in a way, it's becoming, it's a newer area for people to start to feel comfortable about in the workplace. Talking personally, I'm out and I'm gay, and I've been honest about my sexual preference in the workplace for 20 years. But 20 years ago, people didn't talk about mental health in the workplace. So I think we're on that journey. Do I think it's right? Probably not. Would I encourage people to be open and honest? Definitely. But I think there's a stigma attached. I think people think there's more of a stigma attached to it than there probably is these days. And there's probably a relationship that needs building between employers and employees, so you can build that confidence to have those sort of conversations.
And I think that's very right, because what you've said is mental health is still a stigma and people do not talk openly, and they do not understand it's okay to be not okay. I feel that when people are broken, I'm a very broken person, and I'm always been very open about it. I do suffer from mental health problems, and this is all right, but I also am very positive that when things are broken and when they're fixed together, they are more stronger. That's a Japanese saying about it. So that's my another question. Well, obviously, you understand the problem. You understand that there's still a stigma, there's still a gap. What can be done to revert this problem? How can we reach out to people?
So I think that managers and leaders have a responsibility to be open and to to have these conversations when they're recruiting. We were talking yesterday about, we've got a huge recruitment drive at the minute at Different for permanent resource, and we were talking about, are we going to just tee up a session where the senior team take half a day and talk to people who want to understand the culture at Different, to start to get to know us. So I think that's, the interview process has been a process that hasn't particularly changed and evolved over a number of years. So I think it's about people feeling comfortable to have these conversations, and openly talking about these things. I genuinely, there's barely a team meeting or a virtual CEO catch up or a town hall meeting where somebody isn't openly talking about neurodiversity and diversity within Different. It's very much part of our DNA.
Yeah, obviously. And you've already answered my next question. That was, how can we build a safe and inclusive space for neurodiverse employees in the organization? And I think you've touched on the recruitment processes needs to be some more of an innovative way. You're not directing people not to do that, but obviously there has to be some human aspect of understanding people so people can understand the culture.
I agree with that. And I think it's an interesting one. And, I myself was diagnosed ADHD last year, and I haven't actually spoken about that publicly. And the reason I haven't spoken about it is I think I knew it deep down anyway. I've always been pretty lively. I'm not great with authority. I have a short attention span, and things that really excite me get done. Things that bore me don't happen. And so, I probably didn't need to see a psychiatrist to make that assessment, but I did see a psychiatrist, and I went through that process. And the recommendations that he made to me, I'd already put in place. And I'm in a position where I'm very lucky. I have a PA who manages my diary and my time, and stuff like that. I'm not great at. She has a hell of a job looking after me. But if it's super exciting, I'm there. If it's something that feels more mundane, like on a personal level, I have been shielding a lot in the last 12 months. Because I'm chronically asthmatic, and that's meant that my girlfriend has had to go to the supermarket and arrange deliveries. Now, I'm not going to lie, I have no desire to be going back and doing the weekly shop because I found it boring before. So, it's just recognizing and acknowledging these things in yourself. And I think it's playing to your strengths. A long time ago, when I was doing management training, I was talking to the lady, Pauline Stewart, who ran the training. And I said, I think I should focus on some of my weaknesses and close the gaps. And she said, I think you're focusing on the wrong area. You really want to increase your strengths and accept those weaknesses. And I was like, that's a bit more, and it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and that's very true, because when you were talking about a lot of things over there, and when you were so open, so I really respect that. First of all, thank you so much for sharing. But I can really relate that if something doesn't excite me, I myself does not get involved. And if something is something is challenging, and if I want to do it, I will go over and beyond to get that done. I'm also not very good with authoritative, though I am also founder and CEO, and that was only why we built our organization as well, and the charity, because I saw that there was a need where leaders were seen differently. So I always ask these questions. Why is there a stereotypical image of a leader? Leaders can be soft-spoken. Leaders can go through mental health problems. Leaders can be broken. And we should be more open and honest. As long as the work is getting done, we all have different strengths, and those different strengths combine us and make us more diverse. And that's why, there's a banner over there that we should inspire people to be brave, to take the step forward and introduce neurodiversity. So leading on to that, what do you think is the future of not gender diversity as well, along with neurodiversity? Because again, there is a stigma between gender and neuro. I would like to have your thoughts on it. Do you think men are more open in talking about neurodiversity or gender, or the women are more
It's
like
interesting.
you do?
Interesting subject. So I can only go on my personal experience, and I'll talk about different. It's the women that work at different that are more open about neurodiversity. So I don't know quite why that is. Maybe we're more outspoken. Who knows? Could be. But it tends to be within different. But I balance that by saying it's two guys who are our mental health first aiders and who put themselves forward for that. So it's not necessarily always entirely representative. But from a neurodiverse perspective, the conversations I tend to have are more with other females in the organisation. But I'm sure once this airs, I'll be having more conversation with the others in the organisation as well.
Yeah, that's great, and I think you've clearly mentioned and highlighted and balanced it. That yes, it can be, and people have different experiences around that. So, what do you think today is the food for thought from you?
That's a good question. I think for me, the workplace has evolved a lot since I started working. I've been working for 24 years now, and it's distinctly different to what it was like then, and things have evolved, and we must evolve with that. For me, I go back to a point I made earlier, which is we're all at the workplace for far too many hours. So quite frankly, it should be good fun. We should be working together to deliver whatever our field of expertise is, but we should absolutely be ourselves. So I don't believe in putting people into boxes. And whilst we're talking today about neurodiversity, I think people need to be authentic and bring their whole selves to work. And we as employers and as leaders need to encourage that and create the right environment so people feel comfortable doing that.
Yes, and that's what Different does, creating positive change, tech for good, and that is what Different is. So thank you very much. And whoever's joined us today, whoever's listening us, viewing to us, please do visit the Different website. It's different.co.uk. There you would see how are these Rachel and her team is creating positive change, tech for good, and that's what it is all about. I think today, Rachel, thank you so much. You've shed light onto very sensitive and yet very important matters. And as humans, we all could relate to. First, we are humans, then I think we choose. And what I have actually inspired from this talk with you today, be authentic. There's no harm in expressing, because yes, this is something that I need to build up as well. I'm not a tech person, first of all. I'm more of a human person. But yes, technology is, and I always believe that technology should be used for good and for more, it should be more humanized. You have shown that with the brilliant work that Different has done. I would request all of the viewers to follow Different. Go ahead. And as Rachel was mentioning about recruitment drive, do get in touch, do pose questions. I would like to apply as well, Rachel.
You're very welcome. I look forward to having that conversation.
Yes, I would. I always would like to go places where I'm accepted the way who I am. And this is why, I'm even creating and initiating these conversations at Dynamo, because this is very important that now we embrace it, dignify it, and inspire it. Not only talk about equality, diversity, and inclusion, but do and to take steps to actually promote it. Thank you so much, Rachel, for today's conversation. And thank you so much for your valuable time.
No worries. My pleasure. And have a fab day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. So before going, it was a lovely session with Rachel. We've had so much inspiring thoughts. We got to know about a brilliant organization working in Northeast tech sector, Different. If you would like to build up your career in tech, please go ahead and go and visit their website and check their recruitment drive. Before we go and I finish off, subscribe to the channel of Dynamo. Dynamo is taking a very unique approach in promoting equality, diversity, and inclusion. Follow Dynamo on social media and turn to our website. If you would like to speak to me and would like to read more about the work we do, please visit the Dynamo Northeast.co.uk and visit the Innovation Hub. You would find a lot of blogs of mine written. If you would like to get get in touch with me and give us your suggestions about how we should do more and promote equality, diversity, and inclusion, write to me on fareeha.usman@dynamonortheast.co.uk. And I would just say what Rachel has, Rachel was saying, have fun at work. We are working very long hours. This is a difficult time. Have fun, enjoy yourself, and be authentic. That's the food for thought to take away. So I'll see you in another episode next month. Thank you so much.